Welcome to AstroEnergy with Astrologer Angel Shelley Overton. Hello, this is Shelley Overton, and you're listening to the AstroEnergy Show on Blog Talk Radio. Today is Tuesday, September 12th, and I am just very happy to be able to be here with you and telling you about my week. So today I decided to go on air. I could have probably canceled the show, but I know when I listen to other astrologers, it's always nice to have them as kind of a touchstone when things go a little awry. And so I know that there are people out there who want to hear what's going on and connect in. So I decided to have the show. It's going to be a little bit different today. We're definitely going to do readings, but I'm going to have a little story time and tell you about my week, and then we can talk about astrology. And it'll last as long as it lasts, whether I only do one reading, then I'll end the show, or we have the board full and then I end it at the end of a normal show. So as you know, I live in Orlando, Florida, and last week on the show I was anticipating a hurricane, and so I did the chart for the hurricane, and I saw that Orlando definitely had a very strong aspect in its chart. To remind you, that is Jupiter at, I believe, 23 or 24 degrees of Libra. And it also had Uranus very strong in the chart with the transit at 27 opposing natal Jupiter in Libra. And that is exactly where Jupiter in Libra is currently in the sky. So we're in a Jupiter return in Orlando. So because Uranus is opposing Jupiter, Jupiter's transition and Uranus is storms, we were going to get a storm, and it was pretty clear in the chart that that was a significant event that was probably going to affect Orlando. So because there was a very clear aspect in the chart, I felt like we were going to have, if not a direct hit, a very strong connection to this storm. So moving on through the week, I started preparing, and, quite honestly, it's really difficult when you're preparing for a hurricane and you don't know for sure how strong the winds are going to be or where you're going to end up, because for just like last year, we had Matthew in Orlando, and Matthew was like a category 2 when it hit, so it wasn't as strong. And even though it's a category 2, the winds were around 60 to 70 miles an hour. And it wasn't consistent except for a very small period of time. And actually, I take it back. I think if memory serves, the winds went on for quite a while, but they were consistent, but not as strong. And so, having that in my recent memory, I was like, okay, well, a 2 you can live through, and it'll be okay. It'll be a few downed trees, and people will be without power here and there. And, a week later, you'll pretty much be getting on with life, and, everything will be piled up in your yard and picked up by, the yard people, the yard waste management. So, having a lesser force wind definitely makes a difference on a hurricane. And so not knowing where this hurricane was going to turn, or even if it was coming up the center of the state, initially it was going to come up the East Coast, then it moved to the center of the state, then it moved to the West Coast. And to let you know, my children's father runs a Papa John's in Miami, and he was looking at potentially losing all the stores they had with a direct hit from Irma. So it was going to be a catastrophic hit for our family. And fortunately for that circumstance, it kept going. Unfortunately for the Keys, I think it pretty much decimated the Keys. But it did make a turn, and as it's turning, during this time, my son goes to college in Sarasota, which is the other side of the state. It's the Gulf side of the state. So he's definitely, as I've said on the show before, feeling his Aquarius rising and 3 planets in Aquarius, and is really loving life on his own. So he had a few friends, one living in Fort Lauderdale, who was at the time going to be in the eye of the storm. So they all holed up at school, and he was kind of implored to come home by his father here in Orlando, and he insisted on staying in Sarasota. So that was a bit of stress, but we were just hoping that the storm wouldn't affect Sarasota. So we continued to prepare, and I waited until the day before because, I mean, I knew about the storm coming about 4 days in advance. And, looking at the astrology of it, I knew that there was going to be something. I just didn't know what to do. So if you have a category 2, which is some wind and some debris flying in the yard and maybe a little bit of water in your doorways, you don't get as prepared as if it were a category 4, which at one point they were saying the eye was going up the coast about 30 miles away from us in Cocoa Beach and Titusville. So at that point, you're going, okay, for this storm, everything has to go to the middle. It has to be off the floor. You have to prepare for potentially losing power or likely losing power. You have to do something with the windows. And, in the past, when I owned a house, I would board up the windows. This one is a rental, and it turned out that my landlord was out of town actually for 2 weeks over the course of the hurricane. So none of that was going to happen. And then it falls to me. So I put some plastic over a few windows. I didn't have the manpower to do the boards. So I just moved everything I could away from the windows. I sealed up the windows. I put things off the floor. They were clustered in centers of rooms. And the only thing I didn't do that I forgot to do was to fill the tubs with water in case you can't flush, which is now the case. And so I've got extra bottled water I can take from my parents' house. So I decided to stay with my parents, which is always a pretty safe place. It's not far from my house, about 6 miles inland. And so it's built newer, and the house that I live in is built in 1963. So it has managed to withstand quite a few hurricanes, obviously, since 1963. But it isn't one that I would necessarily want to be staying in. So I ended up getting everything as well prepared as I could. I had gotten a trampoline over the summer for my daughter to play on and jump on, and me too. Actually, believe it or not, I like to jump on the trampoline. So I have this brand new trampoline with no real way to take it apart. And so I just moved it to the far corner of the property, hoping that the wind, it would be tucked in between a tree and a fence, and that would be, pretty safe with a barn cover near it. But we got back yesterday and surveyed the property, and it actually was shredded, and the whole lower half of the trampoline was busted off, literally ripped the steel on the bottom, and the netting that surrounds it for safety was shredded. I think the actual trampoline is okay, and I might pop that off and try and buy a new frame, but it's pretty much a goner. And that's actually the worst of the damage, thankfully. And then the rest is just a lot of trees down in the yard. My daughter and I went over to my parents' house, and we quote unquote hunkered down. And I actually was really thoughtful getting ready. And I brought my computer, I brought my headset, I brought my ephemeris book, and all the things I would need to get on the computer. And pretty much we had no internet, but we had electricity. So I was able to get on my computer, and then eventually the internet came back, not very long after the whole thing went through, and I was able to get on my computer and check in there. And I also I brought my TV antenna because I don't have cable. I just have this really nice antenna that can pick up about 40 channels locally. And we didn't have any TV either, so my parents' cable went out. So I set up my TV, and we had TV. So it was really fortunate. And so it hit in the middle of the night. It turned out that it came straight up. It was supposed to go straight up through Sarasota. So, of course, my son was going to be in the eye of the hurricane. And he actually, on the property of his college, he lives on the second story of a dorm. About 200 yards from his dorm it was a shelter for the property. So if he needed to go to a shelter, he literally only had to run across a parking lot to get to it. And then as it changed direction, it was going up the center of the state, of course, because I knew Orlando was definitely in the running for the eye. And we went to bed about 11, and I was up until 3:30 with wind howling at my window, and I was looking out the window. Fortunately, my room was in the middle of the house with a fence next to it, and all the trees were in the back of the property. So if anything fell down or broke, it was pretty far away from my window. So once I looked out the window, I noticed that it seemed, like I was going to be okay. And I actually was able to fall asleep at 3:30, and I woke up at 6:30. So I got 3 hours of sleep that night. And then we woke up and we had things that we could eat. The electricity did not go out at my parents' house at all. And my mother was so sure that it was going to, but fortunately she was wrong and we had it. And then later on, we had a curfew until 6 o'clock last night, so we weren't able to get out and see any damage at my house. I didn't know if windows were broken and water was in or anything like that. And so we kind of waited out the day. The winds were still around 35, 40 miles an hour, but we could go out and see the damage around the property. And literally, there were just some branches down in my parents' yard, and one topiary tree on the left side of the driveway fell down. And other than that, really no discernible damage happened here. Unfortunately, she's tucked behind a conservation group of trees, like a forest. And so that kind of reduced the strength of the wind coming at the back of the house. And then the front of the house is on a cul-de-sac, so we're kind of like a little caravan of pioneer wagons here with the houses all circled around. So that also helped cut down some of the wind. And also the houses across from us had trees, cutting down the force of the blasts. But my house was right in the middle, smack dab in the middle of an acre of land. So it was kind of right there, right before getting hit. But we went out last night at 6 o'clock on the dot when the curfew lifted. And part of the reason the curfew was in town was to get rid of wires hanging across the roads that were alive. And I know there was a story of someone in Orlando who was out during the storm on the highway and apparently had an accident and ran into a pole or something, did not survive in the middle of the storm, in the height of the storm. But when the storm was over, all these power lines are down, and if you don't know that they're there because they're black, it's kind of hard to see them. You could go right into them and electrocute yourself. So, that's a hazard. And yesterday, because of the curfew, I think they had a lot of the power trucks and everything out, and they were taking care of some of those down power lines, because once the curfew was over, everyone was going home to see what the damage was and get out, take care of business and get things cleaned up or whatever. So 6 o'clock, we were in the car and out the door, and there were a lot of traffic lights out. You had to do the four-way, all the traffic lights. Some people were running them. So, we had the news on, and the news reminded everybody that it was a four-way stop. So for the most part, people were doing pretty well. I went over to my house, and there were many down trees. There's retention ponds. In Florida, we have retention ponds because of all the water runoff. We have to do that. Otherwise, Florida's basically a swamp. So you have all these retention ponds as part of housing subdivisions. And, people will fish in them. They're fishing a lot of them. And they're just like rectangles right near the subdivisions. So going around the neighborhoods, we see these retention ponds, and there are trees that are on the edges of them, some of the ponds. And there was one coming from my parents' house to mine that had a full-size 25-foot tree turned over, and because of the rain, its roots had been in the pond, and probably because of loosened soil. And a lot of times the sprinkler systems come on and the roots are very shallow, so it just tipped right over. And this huge tree had this giant island hanging off of the roots of it, with other plants that are normally on the edge of the pond just living still as it was on its side. It was a pretty amazing sight. I'm going back over today, and we're going to get some photos of that. So I'll try and post those on Facebook. But yeah, we get over there, and there's down trees in my neighborhood, and because it took all day, everyone who was in my neighborhood who stayed, they tend to clear these things out. They have large equipment because I'm in the country, so they'll just move all these trees to the side of the road, and so it was fairly clear getting there. But there was a low electric cord down the main entrance road to my subdivision. No, I don't live in a subdivision. To the end of the road that I'm on. And so somebody had put a sock up on it so people knew it was pretty low. Literally, it was just about 2 feet above the roof of my car. So, yeah, it's still kind of dangerous out there. There's not a lot open today. We went out for breakfast. And so this is the other kicker. This is kind of funny also. I have relatives from South Dakota who planned their Disney World trip this week, and they had the opportunity to cancel, but because it's such a large expense and there were 6 of them coming, they ended up not canceling, and they were in one of the last flights in last Wednesday. And so they've been staying out, the majority have been staying out at Disney World or Disney properties where my aunt and uncle came to stay with my parents. So they rode out the hurricane out at Disney in one of the hotels, which was completely locked down. They wouldn't let anyone out of their rooms and during the hurricane, and they had until later on that day, and they only had emergency personnel out there. So it was quite an event. They lost about 3 days at Disney, I think, maybe 2 full days at the parks. But it's beautiful, and there's hardly anyone at the parks. So they're getting low lines and fairly decent weather now. I mean, it's sunny, and things have moved through. There isn't quite as much humidity in the air. But yeah, it's been quite an interesting event. So we went out this morning. I'll give you one last story. We went out this morning looking for breakfast, and of course some of the lights are still out, but there's one long road that goes all the way through Orlando. It's called Colonial, and we ended up running into some people at the restaurant. We went to a Steak and Shake, and they came in and they said, yeah, there's nothing open the whole length from west side to east side on this road, and it's 10 miles, 15-mile road. They couldn't find any restaurants open, including McDonald's. So we found this Steak and Shake that we normally go to every Sunday, and they had a limited breakfast of just like biscuits and gravy, bacon and eggs, and that's all you could order. And so we went into this restaurant and sat down, and normally on Sundays there's maybe 3 tables busy, and this place was filling up as we were getting in there, and it was so jam-packed. They had 1 chef and 3 waitresses, and they were completely packed. And fortunately, as we were sitting there, more waitresses came in. But there was a couple that came in after we did, about 45 minutes after we did. We didn't get fed for about an hour. And so they came in, and they were trying to sit down and talk to the waitress across the room. And I could see they were signing. And 25 years ago, when I was in art school, I picked up sign language. And so I jumped up to help the waitress communicate with this couple, and had to unfortunately tell them that breakfast was out. They had no more breakfast, and they would have to have hamburgers for breakfast because right now it was like 9:30. So I helped this couple and interpreted for them, and they decided to stay, and they had hamburgers for breakfast. But I went back to my table, and there were 6 of us there, and I was sitting down a few minutes, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes later, and a woman comes up to me, and she squats down next to me and puts a Steak and Shake gift card on the table next to me and said, I just wanted to say I saw what you did, and I want to thank you for helping those people. It's such a nice act of kindness, and I wanted to thank you. So she, in a way, to me, and gave me this gift card for Steak and Shake, and I just thought that was such a lovely thing, and it really made me feel good, and I wanted to share that with you all because it was so cool to. I got goosebumps here as I'm telling you. Anyway, so we're digging our way out. There about yesterday there were 150,000 to 200,000 without power. I'm one of them, and fortunately, like I said, I have a place to go, and I have my parents' house. They're not without power, but across the state, I know I saw like 4.5 million people without power. And I don't know if that's an exaggeration, but I know in Orlando, just in our county, there's 150,000. In the county just north of us, which is still part of the territory of Orlando, it's around the same amount, and in the whole metro area there's over 500,000 people without power. So I know they were staging all the power trucks at Epcot in the parking lot. I think they said they had I want to say 17, but that seems really few. They had quite a few power trucks from all over the country staged over at Epcot, and they were all going to get out, and they were also paying it forward, because I know some of those people were from New York when they had Sandy, and so they came down to help us, because I know a lot of our people had gone up to help them. And, you know, I've got chills again. While this is an incredible event and it's devastating, Houston's devastated, and I know there was an 8.1 magnitude earthquake in Mexico and fires in California last week. It's just the heart coming out of people is immense, and I'm just really in seeing it in my own life, in my own world, and hopefully I was able to be a small part of that today, and really just give so much love out to the people who really care about other people, and they're putting politics aside, they're putting personal opinions aside, and they're just helping people. It's a human thing. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that and say thank you for listening to my program, and let's talk a little bit astrology, and yeah, we'll get on with the show. So today, I just did a chart for 1057 here in Orlando, and that chart says that we have a Scorpio rising, and oh, that was also the other thing. My birthday was the day the hurricane hit, so that was kind of fun. So Scorpio rising, which is also my rising sign. We've got that going on here in Orlando, which is deep emotion and depth of connection and value to others. We have Saturn in Sagittarius, which is in opposition to the moon today. Right now, the moon's at 11 Gemini, and that does concern me a little bit, because I know Jose is off the coast, and they're saying it's looping around, and then it's going to come out from the loop and head over Florida direction, and they haven't told us where it's going after that. But because the moon is in Gemini, it's twins, and I have been thinking about this for the last 5 days, that I knew the moon was going into Gemini, and I knew Jose was on the coast. So hopefully he will fizzle out. I mean, initially they've been saying there could be some fizzling out, but he's over there near the Bahamas. So cross my fingers that that does not turn into anything worse. We've got, okay, so Gemini moon, which again, it's emotion, but it's also the twins and having two ways of seeing things, and it's emotional as well. So it's putting the energy of emotion into electricity, which again, electricity's out. We knew it would be a problem. I think I mentioned that last week. Electricity would be the problem because Mercury goes into Virgo, and it went into Virgo last Saturday. It's now at 2 degrees Virgo, and that is power. And you have a Gemini moon, so we've got the two energies squaring each other, and also the moon went past a square to Mercury and a square to Mars, and now today we'll approach a square to the Sun in Virgo. So definitely we're going to still have power outages, probably for at least another day for most people. And we've got, well, at least here in Orlando, and I'm sure Houston's going through their power outages as well. So please do contribute to the Red Cross if you have a chance, because I think that's really the best way to get help into the areas afflicted and needing it. We've got Pluto at 16 degrees Capricorn in trine to the Sun at 20, so it just went past an exact trine, meaning trine energy is, there is an event, and then there is an understanding of how to integrate it into your life, and it can be cooperative as opposed to conflicting, which are the squares and the oppositions, and also the inconjuncts. So, and I'm gonna clarify this, because I think about it every time I talk about inconjuncts. I consider an inconjunct 150 degrees apart or 30 degrees apart. That isn't necessarily what they're called by all astrologers, but that's how I identify them, because to me, when you look at a wheel, you have the 30 degrees apart in one way, and if you go all the way around to the other side, it would be 150. So there's 30 degrees and 150, and they're roughly the same angles, so to speak. There's an obtuse angle and an acute angle. And I may be getting into too much with the geometry of it, but I always assign that. It's honestly how I learned coming into astrology, and it's kind of a habit that dies hard. Semi-square is one of them, or semi-quadrate. There's a couple different angles that are over in that degree, but I always identify them as in conjunct. So if you're listening and you've heard other things, that's why. I'm just going to clarify that. I will always tell you the degrees so that you know which one it is. And I know I should probably change how I do it, but old habits die hard. So anyway, we've got the cluster of planets up there in Leo and Virgo. And so we've got a stronger energy around education and health and welfare and service right now, which will help our country as we are trying to dig out and get a handle on the fires and everything, be of service. It's also a military aspect, and because Mercury is 2 degrees off of Mars, I haven't had a chance to really see international news, quite honestly. All the news that has been coming in on the news stations we can get are all the hurricanes. So I don't even know what's going on with North Korea right now or anything overseas anywhere. But I can tell you that that will also be something to watch. Sun in Virgo is more logical and less egoic. So it doesn't necessarily increase what's going on with asserting yourself on other people in an aggressive way like a fire sign would. It's more about protecting yourself. So that energy, given the fact that Mars is also in Virgo, will mean that we're building our military might, which is Virgo ruled. Militia and military are under Virgo. So that could happen during this time. And Mercury coming up on Mars, they're 2 degrees off. So it's basically conjunct. That can mean that we are talking much more about the strategy of what could happen. So Mars will be there until October. Let me just look it up real quick for you here and tell you it goes in to Libra on the 23rd of October. So, and that is actually diplomacy. So if things do not happen to come to a head, there will be more opportunity for diplomacy. Now, this week, we are going to have the moon in Leo, which will also Mercury is going in Leo to late degrees and will join up with the eclipse degree. Let me see if I can even find out when that is. Let's see, Venus in 28 degrees Leo is the 19th of September. So I would say if anything happens, warlike, it's more likely to happen when Venus gets down there. And Venus is a lover sign. It's a creative sign. It's not necessarily the fighter sign that Mars was, but it will touch on that eclipse energy. So what it's going to do is bring out more of an awareness of how desires have changed, and the intent and intention and creativity energy of what we're making and manifesting in our lives is shifting. And we will see that energy shift when Venus gets to that degree. Again, I want to say, what did I say? I just said it. I don't remember, 23rd of September? No, 19th of September. I have it highlighted right here. So let's see what else we have. We have Mercury at 2 Virgo, again, because it was just in Leo, which is much more fiery communication, hyperbole, stories, storytelling. In Virgo, it's much more quiet and educational. So we're finding ourselves more thoughtful, more logical, probably more frugal, and then much more work-oriented and task-oriented now. Mercury conjunct Mars. Mars in Virgo is the workaholic sign of the zodiac, and I have 2 family members with that energy, so I absolutely testify that this is the workaholic of the zodiac. So right now, through the end of the month, we're going to be seeing, and even into, let's see, it'll be the 23rd of October, we have Mars in Virgo. So we have a really good, strong month of service, work, health, everything Virgo stands for: education, teaching, learning, and really shoring things up a little bit and making it work better. So it's not quite the drama energy that we've seen, although Venus in Leo is going to continue bringing us dramatic stories. And, because it is a storyteller, Leo's a storyteller and the risk taker, we can see some of that energy coming up around stories we see in the news, and women too, because it is Venus, so it's female energy. I'm sorry, get a comment. You're so cute, Juliet. She's over here. I'm in my parents' spare bedroom, and she's keeping me company today. And she's out of school because, of course, there's no school due to the hurricane, and she's hoping for one more day out of it. But I don't know, because her school was a shelter. I don't know what the situation is on that, so we'll have to see what goes on with that. Okay, Neptune is opposite the sun, but it's just the very last degree of an opposition, and then it kind of clears that. So I'm just trying to see what jumps out at me here. She keeps stretching and makes all these funny moves. But the moon is squaring Mars and squaring the sun today. So we've got, remember when we had the eclipse? This is the first full revolution since the eclipse. And so we are at the very last square since the eclipse of energy. And that is bringing the two light bodies, and there really are light bodies. They're not considered planets, they're considered lights in astrology. So it brings them into their last square, and again, it's last square before they join up again is my point. And so we've got this energy of communication and electronics, which is the moon, at odds with service and health and the work energy. So yeah, if your computers are giving you trouble, you'll find that energy probably stronger today and tomorrow with that square. And then Neptune's at 12 degrees, so also Moon is squaring Neptune today, and then later on opposing Saturn. So Moon square Neptune again. Neptune is very much about water and letting things go. In retrograde, it can be much more like Virgo and more pragmatic and clear-minded, but at odds with the moon. So the moon can be emotions. We're wanting to be able to make more sense of things or have ideas that will solve things, but the sun and Neptune and Mars are all working to have things a certain way, much more. The Virgo energy is going to be a little bit more authoritarian, more like a teacher and wanting to keep control of the class, and Neptune's going to be much more threaded through society as opposed to necessarily individualistic, although we are individually affected by Neptune. Neptune is so slow to move through the zodiac. It tends to have more say over generations of people or larger events. And so having Neptune, in opposition to, actually today's probably more likely to be influenced by Mars as an opposition than the sun, because the sun is moving away from the exact opposition, and Mars is moving into exact opposition. And also Mercury will get there as well in the next 10 days. So so Mercury and Mars opposite Neptune is going to be also Earth versus water. And when you have Earth and water, you have mud. So Moon will, in 2 days, will be going into Cancer. So there's also going to be an added energy around water and flooding coming in again. Hopefully that won't relate to Jose. I am kind of keeping an eye on him. I'm feeling more he's going to end up going up the coast or dissipating, and I'm hoping that. So maybe I'm just a little waterlogged and, naive. I don't know, but we'll keep an eye on it. I haven't actually done anything. I didn't do the chart for Jose. And you can do charts for hurricanes as a birth energy when they actually deem it moving from a tropical storm into an actual category of hurricane at the time they give it the title, or at the time they give it a name before it actually becomes a hurricane, usually when it's a tropical storm or depression. And then when it becomes a hurricane, when they declare it a hurricane, you can do a chart for that time, and then that becomes kind of a guided view of the birth of the hurricane and what's going to go on, and look at the Mars for what it's going to do action-wise, look at the oppositions and the difficult aspects, transition, transform, etc. But anyway, let's see, what time is it? 11:35. I'm going to take a real quick 2-minute break, and then I'll be back and we'll take callers' ratings. And if you want to call in, 347-994-3365, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, welcome back. You are listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show on Blog Talk Radio. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and I want to thank you for joining me today. If you are interested in seeing any of my artwork, you can go to shelleyoverton.com. I have a lot of artwork there, and I love sharing it with you. And if you would like to get a reading, you can go to astrologerangel.com. Also, I just wanted to promote my YouTube channel, which I'm really trying to build right now, and I put up the show on YouTube. It's just the sound with a lot of really amazing Hubble telescope NASA photos that, by the way, if you want to use NASA photos, they are free to the public, copyright-free, Creative Commons, and they're the most amazing photos, too. They're nebulas and space shots that are phenomenal, and they make them available for free to the public. So I think that's a pretty cool thing. Anyway, you can get me on Facebook, Instagram, and all the usual social media sites. So let's talk to somebody. Let's see if I can get it. There it is, 313. Hi, 313. How are you?
I'm great and great. Can you hear me?
I can, but you're a little echoey. You're on speaker.
Oh, okay. I'm sitting in the bathtub soaking while I'm listening to you.
How you doing, Vaughn?
I'm greater than great.
You're so
great.
cute. How was your birthday?
Happy birthday. Well, my birthday was a little bit less adventurous than yours, but
really?
Yeah, I had a party,
Oh, awesome.
All of my nieces and nephews showed up for.
Aww.
One of the people, very few of the people who were, my generation actually showed up.
Oh, that's funny. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's really awesome. So, what can I do for you?
Well, I called him back to call and check on you, make sure you were good.
I saw, just as I was getting ready for the show, I saw you had left a voicemail, and I didn't have a chance to answer it because I was trying to make sure that I was able to even get on the air today. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good. It was, my birthday, I have a little Venus and Leo in my chart, as do you.
Yeah,
so my birthday tends to be like, it's my one day of the year to be the center of attention and, have all this love sent my way. And it just didn't happen the way I anticipated, because I was going to go out to Disney and enjoy, going out to Disney and doing something out there with my family. But instead,
Yeah.
I got to hunker down. But I was surrounded by my parents. My parents were surrounded. They stood on either side of me. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I was able to at least have a safe place to go. So as far as having a birthday, it will be memorable. Everyone's like, well, at least it'll be memorable. It will, in fact, be memorable.
Right,
So,
right. Can't forget
yeah.
this one, but thankful that you made it. Well, in general, Miss Shelley, do you see anything, period? Anything that jumps out at you? Because not I know you're okay.
Yeah,
Just
well,
anyway.
Jupiter on your south node and Uranus on your north node is going to be pretty big for you. And, just as a perspective, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Jupiter going through the chart and being a Jupiter return for Orlando, opposing
Right.
Uranus, which is chaos and ideas. It is an inventor. So it's again, it's entrepreneurship, inventiveness, technology, the internet, storms, electrical, lightning, everything that's very powerful. That's going to be in direct opposition to Jupiter here. Let me just look. It's a 20. Uranus is 27 and Jupiter's at 24, so they are coming into exact opposition. But I don't know. Let me see. I'm just double checking my numbers here. 27. So the end of September, right around the last week of September, last 4 days of September, they will be in opposition. And so that's going to be pretty powerful for you, the end of the month. And for you, Jupiter just went into your first house like 4 degrees ago. So it's only been there for a couple weeks. So you're starting to really feel the more of the energy focused on letting go of people who are not, well, you've felt this. The Jupiter in Libra is letting go of codependent relationships and people who are not in your best interest, that you keep giving,
Right.
and they're just taking. You're like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. Your natal Jupiter is at 22 Leo and Venus is at 20 Leo. So this can very strongly relate to a shift around how you treat women and how you may move from that constantly giving, and saying, wait a minute, I need you to give to me too, and make it much more balanced. Yeah.
All about that
And
one.
because those planets, the planets are in sextile, which to me is the most cooperative aspect between planets. You've got your natal Jupiter sextile to transiting Jupiter. You have Venus on your natal Jupiter in Leo, which is romance, and Venus is women. And then Jupiter is in your first house now, which means that instead of being subconscious, going, I just have these feelings that I'm not getting my needs met, but the 12th house is still very dreamy and hidden, and it's like an idea that doesn't really get any legs and go anywhere, but it sinks into your psyche. Having Jupiter in your first house, it joins up with the Aries energy, which rules the first house naturally. So now you've got some legs, you've got some strength and power behind the idea. And so Jupiter in Libra in the first, it's going to be much more about ego and about self. And you're going to spend the next year going, it's about me, baby. I'm sorry. I need my needs met. And so enjoy that. Yeah. Get into it. Enjoy it. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I'm feeling that kind of way. And like I said, people who didn't show up for this party, it wasn't even my party. And they didn't come through.
Wow.
I was like, I'm cool, I didn't stress it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it is what it is. I understand it to that extent.
Yeah.
Just got to stop being scared of it and go and just claim it.
Well, it's going to be easier. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. No, ma'am. What were you saying?
I was just going to say, because as I've said in the past, when you look at a chart, there are reiterations of what I see. Like a lot of times when it's something that's definitely affecting you, you'll see it in more than one place. And in your chart, you have the Libra energy in the first, which is marriage and partnership and connection to other people, romantic. It can be, your love And then in your house of marriage and partnership, you have Uranus in Aries, which again, Aries is the ego. So you have one of those flip-flop charts where your first house is your eighth, is your seventh, and the seventh is the first. You know, like you're getting the opposite energy in your chart. So you're really about balance in this life. And Uranus in Aries in your house of marriage and partnership is saying, now it's about me. So you have a couple iterations of it in your chart, and you've got Jupiter in the first wanting self-interest to be the order of the day, that I give and give and give, and now it's about me, me, me. And it is. I mean, something that just came in, and when I give readings, I'll include everything if it comes in. I just, when I was, I don't know, in the 80s, I guess, I noticed that each decade is similar to a sign of the zodiac in succession. So the 70s, they called it the me decade, right? What is me but Aries? So the next decade was the 80s, and that was all about Wall Street and shoulder pads and big hair and money, 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 and that's Taurus. So you go Aries 70s, 80s Taurus, 90s was Gemini, was communications technology, personal computers, and then you go into Cancer, which was the 90s. Am I up to the 90s? Yeah, the 90s are Cancer, which is more about home bodies and people starting to have more attention to. I just remember it being like decorating and PCs, and I just really much more about nesting for me personally. So I don't know, maybe others didn't notice that, but it was definitely the Cancer generation of nurturing families, nesting, building. And then Leo is the aughts or the zeros, and so that was much more about creativity and artsiness, and so this decade is Virgo. It's about education and learning and frugality, and money is tighter. And so, you know, you've got some of that. It struck me about the me decade, and that's kind of where you're at. You're learning about me. It's about me. It's all about me. You know, I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Saturday Night Live when Al Franken was on there, and he's like, "It's about me, Al Franken." Do you remember that? I don't know if you remember that.
I actually didn't watch it.
Yeah, it was a funny skit where Al Franken, who is now a senator, by the way, very interestingly, was talking about, you know, when you think about what's going on, think about me, Al Franken. Anyway, so yeah, that energy is really strong in your chart, and I just take a tangent. But you know, that's why readings are fun, is because you can get tangential and go off, and they're creative and fun and playful, and that's kind of what I need today. So.
Yeah, astrology makes life fun.
Yeah. So do you have something going on in your world? Is something taking off for you?
Well, you know what? Here's the funny thing. I'm about to go back to being one in the spirit again. I made this decision last week. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm still going back to doing what? I'm going back to my radio show, One in the Spirit, here on Blog Talk Radio.
Okay, great. Awesome, yes. Because Saturn
I'm not going to try to create
1-3.
Another one.
Yeah, Saturn is about to go into communications for you, into your third house of communications. That's a great thing. Saturn will make that really take off. That's awesome. Yeah, between now and the end of the year, definitely. Now is a really good time, though. The end of the year, when it gets even later, that's ending.
You already going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very good. Yeah, you want to do it this month or next month, but not November or December, because then it'll just start, wrapping up things. You don't want to wrap up. You want to get it going and have that strong energy for the 21 degrees. That's good. Yeah. So awesome. Well.
So I'm going to go back to doing that. I figured it's a body of work. Why would I start over? I need to get more plugged in to what the Blog Talk has to offer, as far as graphic, how people see me online, and
definitely
being searched for. I need to get dug in and just do it. I've read a lot and tended to read a lot, but now it's time to actually do it.
No, definitely, and you can do it. You've got Jupiter and Venus in Leo, and those planets are about graphic design, believe it or not. They rule graphics, so you can even do your own stuff. So.
I'm gonna figure it out.
You will.
I'm gonna get to it.
You will. I'm excited. So.
I keep seeing October 6th in my head for some reason.
Well, October is a really good, that may be sometime when you meet someone. Early October seems to be a really great time for relationships and partnerships. So, marriage, too.
October 6th. Yeah, so I'm shooting then for, I think I'm going to go ahead and say it on your show, put myself out on the limb. I'm going to shoot for October 6th.
Okay.
Start back up One in the Spirit.
Awesome.
I'm your host, Vaughn Robert. The show where your host is all over the map talking about one subject. I think I need to just get stuck in and just do it. Yeah, got a lot of stuff to talk
I'll give
about.
you a better date. Let me give you a better date. Because October 6th is literally the end, 29 degrees of Jupiter. Do it on the day Jupiter goes into Libra. And on that day, the moon is also in Gemini, which rules communications. So that October 11th will be good.
October 11th?
Yeah. And you can call me. I don't have the time right now to do it because the show's almost over. I got to take a couple more calls. But call again, and we'll nail that down closer to a time if you want. Time in the day. All right?
All right.
Okay, great. Thanks for the call. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Happy birthday. I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, my heart goes out to everybody who's got a lot more to dig out of. So.
Right.
Well, take care. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Always a pleasure.
Bye. Thanks. You're so sweet. Okay, let's take 651. Hi, 651. How are you?
I'm good. This is Linda.
Hi, Linda. Let me find you here. Oh, my gosh.
I'm so glad to know that you're okay, too. That was one of the reasons I tuned in this morning to hear.
Aw. That's really sweet of you.
There, because I certainly thought about you.
Aw, thank you. Yeah, it's really nice to have a community of people who are connected in, you know. It's good. I work alone, and so, I mean, you know, I'm an entrepreneur, so when I talk on my show, it really helps me connect to my community, and it's nice to know that people out there care. Feels good.
Right.
So what
I'm
can I do
wondering
for you?
Does anything pop out on my chart? Well, I've been, you know, I got hit really hard by the eclipse and the full moon again. It was
Did
like
you?
2-3 days before the eclipse and 2-3 days before the full moon. It's like, wow, I feel good, and then the day after, it was like I felt like I'd been hit by a train.
Yeah, I'm telling you, a lot of people were really wiped out physically. I know I was. Like the day after, I just wanted to sleep. It was really like an eclipse hangover. It really was. I mean, it was like that. I just completely zapped in my body. And I'm not the only one. I heard a lot of other people were like, I was just exhausted. So, go ahead.
I'm still feeling that a little bit. So.
Are you? Yeah. Well, you've got Pluto
I'm wondering
at 24.
if there's anything interesting that pops out in my chart for me that I should know.
Yeah,
it would be helpful to know.
A lot of the energy for you is concentrated in marriage and partnership and the Scorpio house of money, death, taxes, legalities, rebirth, joint finances, value of yourself to others, that kind of thing. So right now, again, in your chart, you have Pluto at 24 Leo. And so Venus is going to be hitting that point. So that's a shift and change around the feminine energy within your marriage. I don't know if you're married. Are you married?
No. Divorced
you said
forever.
No? I'm sorry, I totally missed
No, nothing on the horizon.
Okay.
I just had a couple, visits from an old boyfriend from the past, but energetic and texting. He wasn't somebody I wanted to let in the door again.
Oh, okay, good deal. Yeah, as far as someone from the past, that could be a possibility, but Neptune's retrograde right now, so I would definitely say if they are from the past, wait till Neptune is direct. Well, it could be either way. Having Neptune retrograde makes you much more clear about who they are. Neptune direct is going to be, oh, that person is so amazing, so wonderful, and it means that you're more likely to be able to look past some of the things that aren't 100% the best. That could be good or bad, depending on what it is. But it could also mean having Neptune in your second house, which is what I look to for actually bringing in the physical relationship. Like, oh, here's a person, and we're actually making this a tangible relationship and partnership. Neptune is about idealizing, and it's also about your dream coming true. And because Neptune's literally 1 degree into your house, the second house, ruled by Taurus and would be love, that's a possibility. Ideal love is coming in. But the other side of it is finding an ideal love for yourself. And really, that's the bigger message with the planetary aspects right now with the eclipse in Leo, that Leo's romance. It's about the codependent energy with Jupiter and Libra. And then Neptune and Pisces in your second house is about ideal love, but it's value of self. So you need to start idealizing your own value and really putting your energy into the value you have as a commodity, actually, and as a viable commodity in the dating marketplace. So it's funny because my aunt, who is a Pisces, by the way, was telling me last week, she said, you know, you have to see your own value. And she said, my sister, actually, I take it back. It wasn't even my aunt. It was another friend who is psychic. And she told me that my sister has a husband who basically does whatever she wants him to do. And she's very, very strong-willed person. And my friend was saying, well, she has that relationship. She isn't treated like a queen because she acts like a queen, or no, what was it? She gets treated like a queen because she sees herself as a queen.
Right.
And that's kind of what you need to do. Is you need to see yourself. My mom's the same way. Like you get treated that way because you believe in it. And so that's what Neptune wants you to do, is see your ideal higher self as you would be the partner. Like you're a hot commodity and you can attract that in. Currently, Venus, Mercury, and Mars are all in your house of marriage and partnership, and they're triggering your moon and your Pluto, and soon your natal Venus and Mars. So you're really in a very strong cycle. Yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of strong power right now that's being triggered. I mean, Mercury, Mars, and Venus are all going right over all that energy in your chart, all your moon, Pluto, Venus, and Mars in Virgo, and then they all go into your house of commitment. So, and it's also deep, intense love, like merging kind of love. And it's also joint value, the personal value that others put on you and vice versa. So that's really your strong lesson. And all the planets that are clustered in your chart right now are right there in marriage and partnership, and then joint finances and commitment. So you do have Jupiter also hitting your Neptune, Mercury, Saturn up there in the end degrees. I mean, you have a Mercury-Saturn conjunction in the ninth house, and Jupiter rules the ninth house in Libra right now, going over those planets for you. So there's a lot about partnership, balance, commitment, and codependence that you're getting beyond. You are at the last parts of that idealize. Like the Libra energy is the one that really wants to help other people and will give away. I mean, it's a Venus energy, but it's the energy of idea of money. It's not tangibles of money. So they tend to give away all their money. The air signs are not good.
I give away a lot. I don't have money to give away, but I give away a lot.
Yeah. I'm like you. I have Libra in the 12th, so I'll give away everything to others because it makes me feel good. So if I have, I mean, literally, my daughter, she's working now, and if I have money, I'll buy her a coffee with my last $10 rather than make her pay for it, because I just enjoy giving. That's Libra. They will give away the money. So you have to be aware of that behavior, but it's changing. Jupiter wants to have you to yourself in Libra. So going into Scorpio is when you're going to get much more aware of how the money needs to go your way and not always give it away. So those are kind of the things that stick out for me in your chart right now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. That's a lot to mull over. Yeah, there's answer love on on the horizon at all, but I do really see that
there is
the benefits
you
of,
just
of
don't know yet.
Loving myself and opportunities to serve. So thank you so much.
Go for the Scorpio energy. November is better for you. Mars will be out of Virgo, and it'll be up in your 8th house of commitment, which is also in Leo. It'll be actually it'll be going into Virgo and then Libra. When it gets to Libra, it'll be in your house of commitment, which is better. And then Jupiter gets to Scorpio, which is the sign of commitment. So it is on the horizon, but I think November, December is going to be much better for you. Okay?
All right. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
You're
Blessings.
welcome. Take care. Bye.
Be well.
Okay. Thanks. I'm going to take one last call and be quick. It's 214, and we'll see what we can do for you. Hi, 214. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. Who is this?
This is Stephanie.
Stephanie, have
I
you
don't
called
know.
before?
I've called. Yeah, I have. I was the one that has the birthday next to Taylor Swift.
Oh, okay. Yeah, gosh. Did you have a different prefix for your cell phone or something? I don't see you under 214.
No, I can give you my information again.
Okay, that'd be helpful. So,
Okay. It's December. Yeah. December
Okay.
16th, 1989.
Oh, yeah. December 16th, 1989. And what time?
3:01 p.m.
Okay, where was it at?
Pensacola, Florida.
Oh, Pensacola.
I'm glad you're all right after that crazy
Thank you.
storm.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's so sad.
It's hard to really kind of get yourself together, not knowing what's going to happen. And my son, his dorm was completely knocked out of electricity, and it's the only one in the whole complex that had no electricity. So, but he chose to stay. So what are you going to do, right? So
exactly.
Oh well. He's okay. He'll be okay. I haven't really heard back lately, but I know he'll be okay. So I'm just getting this all squared away. Okay. And what would you like to know today?
Honestly, I just want to know what's going on. I mean, the eclipse kind of affected me a lot. And
did it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just looking to see your trigger points in your chart and what was going on with the eclipse. Okay. So the eclipse for you fell in the house of home and family. And it was just off of your moon. You had moon at 19 degrees. So you had the same moon, moon in Leo for the eclipse and for your chart. So it has to do with, again, there are themes that are going on right now, and the themes are about relationships and friendship for you. It deals with family members and children. Like, are you moving out from, like, being more of your own person and really, and you are kind of close to your Saturn return, aren't you? Yeah, Saturn, you can have your Saturn return next year or at the end of next year, early 2019. So it's really, and honestly, all of your Capricorn planets are really part of the trigger for the eclipse, like as the planets are moving through. So yeah, the major life changes are around family, around your relationship with your father. Really strong about your father in this chart, and learning to be your own person and be on your own in some ways. And yeah, everything for you in what's going on falls into your 8th house of commitment, and also it's the place I looked for your interactions with your father. And then the house of home and family, which is traditionally mother, but I assign Leo to the father. So your moon's in Leo in the house of home and family. So everything is really about dad. And then is there another woman in this scenario with your dad? Like someone who you may not get along with?
No, I mean,
my dad,
like, it's probably my stepmom.
Yeah,
so,
but
like,
that's who I was
get along
getting
with
at.
her.
It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't really talk to her though. I mean, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I think it has a lot to do with the relationship I'm in right now. I'm dating someone. I've been on and off with them for a while, and we got to the point where we almost broke up. But I kind of I've been focusing on me more, and you know, I feel like that's been happening a lot. So like I've just been more independent, I guess. Like I don't need to lean on him anymore like I used to and depend on him. And I feel like you were saying, like I am like becoming more of like my own person. Yeah. And it has a lot to do with just kind of letting go, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely it looks like a new job coming in for you, maybe close to the end of the year. And a possible partnership with the job or even a proposal. Jupiter is going to be coming up on Pluto and Scorpio. Again, Scorpio's commitment, it's in your house. The Scorpio energy in your chart by sign is in your house of work. And Jupiter is expansion. and transition.
Okay.
And going into Scorpio, it's going to start changing. You're going to want to do your passion, and it is a wake-up call from the universe to start doing what you're passionate about. And it's also a major life change. And then Jupiter next year goes into your house of marriage and partnership. So what I'm thinking is there's a potential for a stronger commitment. And then next year there's Jupiter on your Mars in last degrees of Scorpio going into the house of marriage and partnership is like getting married. Saturn is also moving into the 8th house, which is a Scorpio house, but it's at the end degrees of Sagittarius, and December 29th goes into, I could be off by a couple days on that date. I'm pretty sure it's the 29th of December. But the end of December, let me see. I'm just going to have to look for sure. Yeah, it's the 29th. So Saturn goes into Capricorn in your house of commitment there as well, and that's a ton of like ownership. But it's also Saturn immediately gets onto your Uranus, which is independence, and then after that goes onto your Neptune, which is your dream commitment. So there's a very deep relationship. When Saturn goes into the 8th, this very deep, strong bond, and the structure of that deep bond. It goes in the 22 degrees, which is very close. It's literally 1 degree off of going into that house right now. So 2217. I'm just looking it up here. 2217.
That kind of makes sense.
The 2nd of October, it'll be in there.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense because like me and my boyfriend kind of like had something come up and we kind of like took a break, and now I feel like we're on a better level of connection.
Oh, awesome.
I mean, I don't know. So I think it's kind of making more sense because he's making more of a commitment. And I don't know.
Yeah, no, Saturn coming up, and I'm saying this for you, and this goes for Taylor too. Commitment's on the horizon, but you have a little bit different chart than her because you have a Taurus rising. So, but for you, all this commitment falls in your house of marriage and partnership, and it's commitment to your partner. And for her, it's in romance and creativity. So she's really committing to that career a little bit more into maybe a romantic relationship, but you're committing in marriage, a marriage and joint finances and creating the structure of that joint connection with a partner. So that's really the strongest part of your chart. But Pluto, which was triggering all of your Capricorn, just went into a new house and got off of all your Capricorn. So that's going into education. So Pluto is starting to make you aware of growth around education, or maybe even a move to another place far away.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually graduating from school, so I think that has a lot to do with like class. I'm just more focused in school, like.
Yeah. So. Awesome. Well, that's pretty much what I see for you for right now. And, you know, if you want a bigger reading, you can check out astrologerangel.com and arrange that.
Yeah, but I'll definitely have to do that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure. And thanks for the call.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. That's the end of our show for the week. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks for stopping by AstroEnergy this week. If you would like to get a hold of Shelley Overton, you can get her at astrologerangel.com, on Facebook at AstroEnergy or Astrologer Angel. The music was provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com, with additional music by Ironwood Rain. Check them out on the net at ironwoodrain.com. To subscribe, please click the picture of Shelley on the right or the red button below.